Scholars! Welcome back to the counselor's office. I'm Mr. Gaming Counselor, and I am early experiencing what I call a Christmas gaming hangover. No, I did not consume any kind of alcohol or anything like that. I just played video games way too late, and now I'm awake, and I am making this video very late. So if you want to know why, it's because I was up gaming like it was back in 2000. But talking about back in 2000, we're thinking back to the release Destiny 1. Think about the classic exotics that we don't have in Destiny 2. That's right, we don't have them in Destiny 2. So here, we're going to watch a video. We're going to watch a video by a llama. I've never heard them before, but I did see this on Twitter. And so we're going to watch a video called I Redesigned All 22 Exotics Weapons from Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, which is something that I find interesting. We really don't have that many exotics left, and some of them are pretty forgettable. So we're going to see how maybe this individual is able to change up and make the exotics maybe viable. All right, here we go, clicking it.
There are currently 22 exotic weapons from Destiny 1 that haven't been remastered into Destiny 2. So today, I thought I'd go through all of these missing weapons and suggest how...
Don't worry, Bungie will find a way to make them one of the Battle Pass weapons for the 30th time. I don't know, let me know how you feel about that. I don't know how I feel about... I mean, technically, I feel like all the revamped exotics should be free. That's my personal opinion, but you guys can tell me, do you think it's okay to make exotics that were from D1 as purchasable exotics? Because you think like Icebreaker just came out and it was from the paid dungeon, and that was the pinnacle. I don't know. You let me know. I feel like it gives me kind of a sour taste, but if you've never played Destiny 1, you don't care. So I don't know.
I would personally rework them to fit into the Destiny 2 sandbox. I've tried to strike a balance between keeping the original aspect of each weapon while also adequately adapting them to the Destiny 2 frameworks like elemental verbs and so on. This video is going to be very similar in style to an older video where I designed the catalyst for every weapon that was missing one in Destiny 2, so if you like that video...
I think there's probably more exotics in the game without a catalyst than there are some missing exotics from Destiny 1. That I don't know if shout out if you want me to watch that video too.
Then you'll definitely enjoy this one. Speaking of, I will also be suggesting my ideas for the catalyst for each of these weapons too. But before we get into it, this video is brought to you by Manscaped. And with the holiday season upon us, there's no better time to...
Here you go, here's your model of Manscaped.
Experience with the
very manly
Package 5.0 Ultra. This bundle comes with the Hallmark Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra that features two interchangeable skin-safe blade heads. The skin-safe trimmer blade for precision and the skin-safe foil blade for that close, clean cut. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra also comes with a larger LED spotlight that also has a dual temperature feature to fit varying skin tones, and it's also waterproof to make grooming in the shower super easy. Charging your trimmer is effortless with the fast USB-C port, keeping you ready for when you need it with up to 60 minutes of use on a full charge. And for those of you who are always on the go this holiday season, the travel lock feature ensures it won't unexpectedly power on in your luggage. Also included is the Weed Whacker 2.0, the gold
you gotta get right in the weeds. That's for your butt, right? You just shove it up your butt with the weeds out
without the risk of nicks and cuts, and it's waterproof, making cleanup a breeze. The package also comes with the Crop Soother Ball Aftershave Lotion and the Crop Preserver Lotion to reduce razor burn and
hey, you need a ball scraper.
Aloe vera magic.
You need the ball scrapers.
Finally, when purchasing this bundle, you also get two free gifts, the Boxers 2.0 and the Share 2.0 premium travel bag that will hold all of your grooming essentials.
Heck yeah.
For holiday travels or for storage under the sink. So, this holiday season, treat yourself or someone special to the ultimate grooming.
Just because I watch ads doesn't mean I can't do my overlay on it. Just fair warning.
Experience with the gift that keeps on giving. The Performance Package.
Oh, don't worry. I will keep giving my gift.
And post-grooming needs, ensuring you
I'm looking right for that where's the ball scraper though? Come on now. You need ball scrapers.
Free international shipping at checkout. Once again, thank you to Manscaped for sponsoring this video. Alright then, let's begin with Plan C.
Oh my god, Plan C.
An ARC exotic fusion rifle that had the unique perk Plan C that read, charge and equip times are very short immediately after weapon swap. And if this sounds familiar, that's because it is. In fact, this entire exotic was made into the backup plan perk for fusion.
But if I'm mistaken though, and correct me in the comments because I haven't played Destiny 1 in a hot minute, backup plan lets you charge up faster, but it reduces your damage, correct? Like that's part of it's the negative about backup plan is that you do reduce damage, whereas plan C actually just did full damage. It just shot faster when you swap to it. So in that regard, plan C is still superior. I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below.
Rifles in Destiny 2. So basically, we need to entirely redesign this exotic from the ground up. So my idea to modernize Plan C would actually be
I don't know. So I don't know if he's going to do that for Ever Exotic, and I'm going to make this a point. I truly believe if you have to remake these exotics completely from the ground up, people are going to rather you just make a new exotic. Maybe you're using the look of it as like a nostalgia bait, like, oh look, it's a gun that you remember, but it's not. It's a new gun. I don't know. Let me know. I personally don't care about exotics anymore. If it's good, I'll use it. If it's not, I'm not going to use it.
To keep the Plan C intrinsic of backup plan to make it ready and fire super fast for the first few shots, but then I would give it the secondary trait Fast Hands that would read, while amplified, the Plan C intrinsic is active indefinitely, meaning that as long as you're amplified, you can continue firing the weapon at lightning speeds. I would also make Plan C a rapid fire fusion and give a damage increase over other rapid fires due to the insane charge time you're going to be having while amplified. Lastly, for the catalyst, I would give it eddy current to improve the reload speed even more, and since my rework hinges heavily on being amplified, this just makes sense. I think this would be a super cool way of retaining the original Plan C identity while also...
So, you're amplified, you hot swap, it shoots faster. So here's the problem with this, is that we technically already have Merciless, which does that. Like, Merciless already rapidly fires. And I feel like there's a theme between Plan C and Pocket Affinity, which we'll talk in a minute, but like that sounds like Merciless. I don't know. I also feel like he's talking about eddy current. Like, I feel like you also need the new jolting feedback, which jolts targets by rapidly hitting them. I feel like that could be cool synergy as well, having that as a freebie. But at some point, you have to be careful. Like in PvP, I don't think this will be broken. But in PvE, this exotic, well, it's also an exotic. So you have to think, okay, so this could be best in slot exotic, like Merciless used to be. And Merciless is still being used for like low mans. Maybe that's what this would be good for, is low mans, and people would go to Plan C if it did all that package. I don't know. I just feel like legendary fusion rifles, as they are currently, are really strong for DPS.
Also adding in some much needed Destiny 2 tuning, and with this rework I could see it being good for DPS in PvE but also remaining balanced in PvP. But I will say that for all of my upcoming suggestions, do let me know what you think in the comments below. Next we have Pocket Infinity, the most neglected weapon in all of Destiny's.
It never came back. It never, after like year 1 or whatever, whenever it came out, it was never touched in year 3. It's just like, bye-bye, you're stuck in Infinity. We're never touching you again. I know a lot of people have like PTSD. Like you talk about Vex Mythoclast back in the day, you think of Thorn in its heyday, but people have nightmares about Pocket Infinity.
Since it never received a light level reprisal and was left to gather dust in the confines of legacy content. So let's give it a much needed makeover. For those of you who are uninitiated, Pocket Infinity was another exotic fusion rifle that fired full auto and had the chance to return a round to the magazine that missed. The full auto portion was the most deadly and had to be nerfed at least once if memory serves, and as you can see
it was nerfed.
Gameplay, it fires very fast. So how can we transfer this?
Think of this is full auto. Think of this as the prototype for Merciless. Not only is it a prototype for Merciless, and I don't think it will ever come back as a, like, if it ever came back, it will never be full auto. It will never be full auto because Merciless isn't full auto. It charges up, and we already have Merciless. Another perfect example is we have Bastion. Bastion charges up, and it does the 3 ways, but it was so good in PvP when it came out that people bitched about Bastion to the point where that Bungie had to nerf it. So, if people, and it's a 3-round burst versus a full auto, there's no way Bastion will ever return as a full auto. Never, ever. Unless they make the drop off on this thing is so bad that you'll never touch it in PvP. Like, there's no shot they'll ever bring it back.
over to Destiny 2? Well, given that this weapon in its current state is somewhat similar to my proposed rework for Plan C, to make it different, I would first give it the intrinsic trait Pocket Infinity that reads High Impact Fusion Rifle. Reloading after a kill grants this weapon full auto capability for a short time. And
Okay, maybe short time, I don't know.
Something like 3 seconds. For its secondary trait, I would give it the perk Sustained Violence that reads defeating enemies or dealing sustained damage with this weapon extends the duration of Pocket Infinity. This would give it an edge in DPS while also making it super fun for ad clear. To balance things out, I would hesitate to have the magazine size be any higher than 5, so I think 5 is a good amount of ammo per mag. Finally, for its catalyst, I would give it Field Prep to help with the lower ammo count. Up next, we have
Alright, well, how are we feeling about this? I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm only concerned about PvP because that's why this thing got nerfed anyways, was because of PvP. I don't think it's going to be good. And like in PvP, that sounds balanced enough if it's a couple seconds, and with the ammo changes, it's not like you can blast 5 rounds unless you're camping it. And you're getting like a couple shots. I think Pocket Infinity, I forgot completely about that. I said it would never come back. It could come back. I mean, we do have Icebreaker. It could come back with how special is in this game, because you got to think Destiny 1 special was a different breed, and how we have things now, it could get away with it. In PvE, I don't think you would ever touch this. I'm sorry. If its shtick is that it's full auto, it's not going to be enough. I think, here's just my thought, Merciless charges up damage. I think Pocket Infinity should charge up Ignition. Like, the more hits it gets, it ignites and causes the explosion. Like if you get a full round shot by like auto, it goes da 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 da, boom, explosion. I think that would be epic. I don't know. You can let me know in the comments down below, but I think as it is, I don't think anyone would touch it. Maybe in PvP, but PvE it would never be touched unless this thing hits like a truck. All right, Invective. Oh my god. Talking about a gun I barely ever used.
Next, we have Invective, a solar shotgun that had the unique perk Invective, which allowed the weapon to slowly regenerate ammo over time from thin air. Identical to Icebreaker, but just in shotgun form and a little bit slower. Given that Icebreaker has now made its way—
Yeah, no one really used this in PvE. Like, why use a shotgun when you have a sniper that does the same thing?
into Destiny 2, we can take some inspiration from that rework and apply it here, since both weapons originally worked the exact same way. So it is a little, so let me first give some context. Invective is Ikora Ray's in-law weapon. She loves it. So first of all, I'd change the element to Void to match her swagger. Then after that, I'd give her the intrinsic trait Shadow Rift that reads, each shot has a moderate chance to spawn a black hole on hit, warping away minor enemies and heavily damaging major
Sounds like Call of Duty.
This perk is heavily inspired by the same ammo mod Shadow Rift from Black Ops 6 Zombies that does essentially that. And I think it would be a super sick perk to have in Destiny 2. For its secondary trait, I would give it the perk Supermassive that reads, enemies within close proximity to the black hole will become weakened, which would give it a nice team support role. Finally, for its catalyst, I would make it so defeating enemies affected by the black hole returns 1 ammo to the magazine in keeping with its Destiny 1 identity. But not as major as Icebreaker's ammo rework, since I believe Invective should be more about cool effects over ammo generation. Fun fact about Invective, it actually has an ornament called Iconoclast, which is also the title you get for finishing the Salvation's Edge raids.
If you think that Bungie thought that far ahead, I don't think so. I think it's just very situational. I do not believe Bungie thought like, oh my god, oh, we're thinking about it that far in advance. Are you kidding me? They barely even knew what they were doing for Destiny 2.
Seal. Anyway, moving on, we have...
Hold on. How do we feel about this?
Nice team support within close proximity.
Enemies within black hole will be weakened. Okay, so what are we doing about black hole again?
Warping away.
Each shot has a moderate chance to spawn a black hole on hit, warping away minor enemies and heavily damaging major enemies. Heavily damaging major enemies. I don't know. So here's the thing. Turning it into a void, I feel like is weird. Here's my thought. Here's my counter thought to you. I like, just make a new gun. Your turn, you were outside of it gets random ammo at the end. You're making an entirely new gun. Just make a new gun. Make it like a void shotgun. What you should do, it should have solar synergy, in my opinion. Like, we are already getting, I think, a void shotgun. If I'm not correct. I may be mistaken, but I think in the next exotic mission we're getting is a void shotgun. So just give us a solar shotgun where getting hits does something with solar synergy. But I don't know. Amigasine's neat. Would I use this for ad clear? And it does say heavily damaging majors, but like each shot has a minor chance to a black hole on hit, warping away minor enemies. I feel like people will hate that. You're in a geom, you're trying to kill a pocket of enemies. You shoot this, and then you cause a black hole, and then you teleport a group of enemies. Your teammates are getting ready to Titan slam, and you teleport the whole freaking group away. I just see a Titan go Hulk smash, and you just shoot the shotgun, and just like things just teleport away, and they just look at you like, what the fuck? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I just had that in my thought. You're trying to kill things, and your teammates just making them teleport away. You're like, stop it.
Weapon because it was the game's only primary ammo shotgun that also had a scope. Something
it was
very
ass.
alien for a shotgun to have.
There's a lot of people that tried pairing this up with with backup plan. Or not backup plan. God, what is it? The stupid void shotgun Titan gauntlets. What the hell they're called? Whatever. I don't use them. They're in D2 currently. They do give shotguns a buff. Very rarely do I see anyone use them, but they're in the game. Someone's gonna correct me in the comments. Thank you. You're a saint. People would love to pair it with the Titan exotics in D1. It's not a good shotgun. Its whole exoticness was just like No Land Beyond, where you could just use this as a primary, and it was primary weapons, like ammo instead of special.
So it only seems right that the weapon should return as a primary shotgun. We've seen it happen a couple of times.
Oh no, sweetheart, no. Have you seen the current state of Destiny? Everyone, if that Bungie would have to nerf the range on this thing like like to the ground. Like, let's get this straight. You get a shotgun that's based on primary ammo. Oh my god. Now, if you treat it like maybe like side rockets, where it has that much plentiful ammo in PvE and PvP, like you just got to give it this rocket / I guess Forerunner vibe, where you only get a couple, maybe 1 or 2 shots. Like, that's the problem with Destiny, is everything has to be balanced between 2 different sandboxes. Like, you can't do some of the fun stuff you want to do because, oh, well, PvP. Oh, what about PvP? Oh, well, you can't do that because PvE is going to be too broken if we do that in PvP. Like, it goes both ways. It's more so on the PvE side. You can't do it because it breaks PvP, which is funny because Bungie does it anyways. So it's like what they choose to actually balance is always, why did you balance that, but everything else is not balanced? I don't know. So PvP players understand there's like 1,000 of them just going,
Bungie experiment with primary ammo weapons that are usually special ammo like Fighting Lion or the newly released Alethanim, then why not try it for a shotgun? So let's have...
So you're saying that it should only have 1 shot because that's what balances. The reload on both of them are slow and they only shoot 1 shot. If that's what you're saying and we have a shotgun that does that, then maybe it might be balanced. If we have infinite shotgun where you just shoot 1 shot.
Have the main exotic intrinsic be the fact that it takes primary ammo. At the same time, let's add a new secondary trait to spice things up called kinetic shrapnel. Landing multiple shots on a target causes them to take additional damage and emit deadly shrapnel that spreads to nearby enemies. So kind of like kinetic tremors, but instead it spreads a fan of projectiles that deal damage to any surrounding targets. I've made this only work on multiple hits so that not every ad you kill emits the shrapnel. I want it to be an effect you can reliably trigger on higher health enemies like mages or champions, so it isn't too broken. Though speaking of broken, because it's infinite ammo, it's of course going to have to take a damage reduction compared to special ammo shotguns, but more importantly, in PvP, an infinite ammo shotgun is going to be a bit of a problem. So to address this, I would make it take special ammo in PvP only, like...
That would never happen. I'm sorry. That will never happen. You have to either make it a special or you have to make it a primary. Bungie's not going to do that. They would have done that like a long time ago. Let's just get this real. Time out. We're living in like hypothetical land. Let's not live in Disneyland, because right now we are in Disneyland. let's get back to hypothetical and this will never happen.
Like every other shotgun. For the catalyst, I think something light would probably do best, so I'm going to give it barrel constrictor and simply leave it at that. Next we have...
Here's my thought process. I think you should go into the identity of the gun. The identity of the gun was always, it's got a scope. It is a primary weapon. It is not a special weapon, so you always have ammo with it, because back in Destiny 1, you didn't always have special ammo, especially in PvP, but this one, the shotgun, you always had ammo. Oh, now Destiny 2, you always at least have one brick for one kill, right? So it's like that problem is null and void. In PvE, that's different. If you're wanting a shotgun to use like a primary, which I think would be really cool, you would have to do two things. And here's my thought on how you make this gun viable. You embrace the identity of this gun. And yes, it's going to compete a little bit with Chaperone, except Chaperone is going to be a little different. You base it on precision damage. This thing has god-awful range. And so, I would say precision hits increases the range on this. And you're like, well, that sounds like Chaperone, but it stacks. And the more precision it gets, the longer the range. Like you extend the range into like sniper territory for PvE. Obviously, in PvP, you're not going to chain this very far. Maybe you get a couple kills. And you won't have the ammo. But you chain the range until you get to like sniper territory, and you do more, like you increase the damage after every stack. So you could effectively use this in PvE as a precision shotgun. Obviously you'd cap it out so it's not doing like a special weapon sniper damage, but it's going to do for primary, it's going to be pretty decent damage. And obviously there's need to be a range cap and all that stuff, but you start out with like abysmal range. I'm not thinking of this as a damage DPS. I'm thinking of this like you're dealing with majors and maybe champs, like you're killing the trash, you're shooting some gold bars, and then you turn on to a champion. You've got max range, so you're able to get a little distance. You're doing some good chunk damage with this thing. That's what I'm thinking. In PvP, think of it as like a baby Chaperone, right? You get a couple stacks, you get some increased damage, and that's it. You just also get unlimited ammo, which, again, if you limit the range to the point where you can't snipe anyone, like you have to actually barrel stuff another Guardian with this gun in order to get a kill, like you have to barrel stuff, I think you're fine. I think you nerf the range to where you have to, because that won't be too much of a problem in PvE, because most people have to be close with a shotgun anyways. All right, we'll continue on to the next one. No Land Beyond. All right.
Currently in Destiny 2 in the hands of Devrim Kay as he safeguards the Trustland Church.
Yeah, it was such a meme.
No Land Beyond is far too iconic to warrant any major changes, so my proposition is to simply bring it in.
I mean, what it does, this is literally it was the only sniper in that slot, because you got to think, it allowed you to have a shotgun and a sniper, which I see in the clip right now. You can't because of the screen, but one of the selling points was that you could have a sniper in that slot, which opened up a lot, because most snipers and secondaries back in Destiny 1 were elemental. And so this wasn't an element. This was one of the first non-elemental snipers you could have in that slot. It was like a rare thing. Also, it didn't have sights, so it was a little easier to aim, but it took some skill to use because it was also like a carbine.
In 1 for 1. Recoil, scope sway, manual cycling, everything. Bring it all back, downsides and all. If I remember correctly, there was quite a skill curve to using this weapon properly, mostly due to how different it behaved.
It was until like that's year 2, I think even 3. That's when people start using this thing like crazy. Everyone and their brother used this sniper rifle, and I think that has a lot to do with the special changes. Shotguns weren't from grace. Sidearms were the most dominant, but if you're going to use a 1-shot or 2-shot special weapon, might as well use the one that has maybe a little bit of a curve, but the scope is a little bit forgiving for aiming
compared to every other sniper, which I think is great and should stay the same. No Land Beyond was also a primary slot weapon in D1, and I think giving it the same treatment in D2 with infinite ammo is also the right move. But for its catalyst, I think something simple is all.
I mean, in PvP, I I don't think you can do that. Unless you make it a 2-shot or a 3-shot like Forerunner. But even then, people even with Forerunner, people still get upset about it. And having a sniper that can just keep going off, I mean, it is slow. I don't know. I don't want to try to think for PvP because, again, Bungie will allow some really broken things. If you treat this as like a 120 hand cannon, this thing shoots probably as slow as a 120. I think it's acceptable. If it's a 3-shot, like you get two head, 1 body, or you have to get 2 heads or 3 heads. Sorry, I think that'd be fine. But I think most people just use a 120 anyways. But I don't know. You sound off. It's very slow. It's not fast. So you would have to really aim to get those hits.
All you would really need here. Maybe snapshots or opening shot would do the trick. PvP players, let me know in the comments. Next, we have another well-known sniper rifle.
Patience and Time.
This sniper had the unique perk Patience and Time that made the user invisible after staying in scope view for a couple.
Can I just say I like Endless Veil? I liked Endless Veil. Not Endless Veil. Yeah, no, it is Endless Veil. I like this map better than the new one because it was darker. It was gloomier. It was rainy. It was in Venus. I like this one better. I hate how bright the new map is.
Of seconds, and right away I know how I want to remake this. First of all, I would change the element from Arc to Void and modify the trait to read like so. Aiming this weapon for a short period without firing grants Void invisibility to make it align with.
I mean, I guess so, because we are technically, you don't want it competing with like all the other Arc snipers that we have.
Current Destiny 2 sandbox verb classifications, and then I would give it the secondary trait Serenity and Silence, which reads, further aiming this weapon without firing will cause the rest of the magazine to deal double
so pre-nerf box breathing. Good luck with that.
Critical damage. I specifically want this trait to affect precision damage only so that you can't one-hit to the body in PvP, though in PvE this won't make the slightest difference, and I think it would be a cool alternative option to use and have fun with. For the
I think so.
I would also give it Withering.
I mean, I always wish there was a way, and I know the reason why it's not is because they don't want it to break in PvP, but I wish there was always a way to have like a true invis build where you could always stay invisible by doing certain actions. And I feel like if they made a kit that you really build into, it'd be really cool, but people would absolutely hate it in PvP. It would be broken in PvP, and why we'll never see it in PvP. But in like Disneyland, I would love to see a invisible build where you just use weapons and your kit to just stay like this stealth assassin. Like, I want an actual assassin class, not hunter. I want an assassin class in Destiny 2. That'd be badass.
Engaged, since it makes perfect sense with my proposed rework. Next, we have the Solar Exotic Machine Gun Super.
Oh my god. Let's just read this. Heavy weapons use purple. Wait. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot that the text just tells you what heavy. You know what's kind of funny? You know what's funny? I didn't realize that until just now. Destiny 1 did a better job of explaining weapons than Destiny 2 does. It literally says heavy weapons use purple ammo. Hold to pick up this weapon, to equip this weapon in game. Like, it actually just tells you. Why don't we have that in Destiny 2 where it actually just tells you how to do the thing?
Super good advice, and its main perk was basically exactly the same as the Deconstruct perk we have nowadays. It would simply make it so almost all shots that missed their target would return to the magazine, though interesting.
So a better mulligan. Yeah, that's why no one used this weapon. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. It was only good for niche situations, but let's be honest. It is probably one of the worst Destiny 1 exotics that I can think of. Like, every other gun had a reason, like a niche. This was just like, hey, it's just a heavy LMG. And we didn't like have, outside like Thunderlord, we didn't really like have too many of them.
This effect would work on constructs like oracles for some reason, even if you weren't missing. But overall,
yeah,
this machine gun was the embodiment of a bullet hose. So how can we bring that fantasy into Destiny 2? First of all, I want it to be brought back as a 450 RPM. Then, for its intrinsic, my idea is to completely change it and make it work kind of like Tommy's matchbook, but with a twist. Dealing can...
Again, I know I'm pausing a lot, but my thought, just, if you're making a new gun, can we just say that this super good advice is literally the most generic exotic? It doesn't even look like, it looks like a generic LMG. So let's get that out of the way, right? So I don't know if it needs to come back, in my personal opinion. It didn't do anything substantial. unless you're gonna really build into the whole mulligan. I don't know. It feels weird. We have 4 times the charm. Oh, we have all these other perks that just outdo what Super Good Advice does.
Continuous precision damage increases precision damage and rate of fire, but builds weapon heat. When weapon heat is full, the weapon overheats and cannot be fired for a short time. Dealing body shot damage decreases weapon heat. So the whole idea with this is just constantly switching between body shot and precision damage to manage the heat meter
Undying
and make
Mind.
sure you don't overheat. But
The Cabal Brothers.
You get rewarded for
I missed the Cabal Brothers.
damage. For its secondary trait, I would give it the perk Cosmic Venting, which reads, while having frost armor, this weapon generates heat more slowly. And my idea for this heat meter is to have it like traditional meters like Manticore, where it's divided into 4 levels. So with this trait, if you're within the 4th level, you can spend more time within it because the heat is filling more slowly. Finally, for its catalyst, I'd give it Deconstruct because why not? Seems like it would fit quite nicely here. Moving on, we have Xalo Supercell, an iconic weapon from the Taken King that essentially lives on through Risk Runner, since both weapons have
People keep saying they can't bring Xalos back. And I'm just gonna say right now, you can have Xalo Supercell and have Risk Runner. And here's the thing. No one really uses Risk Runner anyways. They only use Risk Runner in low content or in specific situations like the Fallen Saber GM, where it's all arc. And the reason they don't do it because of damage. They do it because of infinite ammo and because of the damage resistance. There's 2 things that Super Xalo doesn't have. It just has chaining arc. So technically, it could come back, but they would have to change it a little bit to be usable against. They would have to change it because Xalos essentially is already in the game. But Xalos, I don't know. Something about Xalos feels better than Risk Runner, in my opinion.
Have traits that let them chain arc lightning between enemies and reload themselves while doing so. So how can we change Xalo Supercell so that it's different enough to Risk Runner but still retains its...
Oh, it does reload. I completely forgot. Well, there's a difference from reloading versus infinite ammo. Like, you have to have a target. Like, infinite ammo, you just have infinite ammo. And I think that's where Risk Runner beats Xalos.
Identity. Easy. Just give it elemental verb synergy, since Risk Runner doesn't have any. Its main intrinsic Xalo Supercell now reads, sustained fire from this weapon rapidly applies jolt. Defeating jolted enemies partially refills the magazine. So it's essentially the same, just with Destiny 2 verbs.
Yeah.
And I would also modify the secondary trait, Bolts from the Blue, to read, defeating jolted enemies charges your underbarrel shock charge. Press R to ready and release an underbarrel shock charge that deals damage and creates a jolting explosion. I had this idea because, as you can see in game, Xalo features an underbarrel component which in my mind is perfect to house a one-off jolting explosive that you can charge over time. Finally, for its...
I'm going to say I don't like that, and here's why. I think what it should be is a blinding grenade. Let's fit the whole synergy, right? I think you charge up, you get this electric amplified grenade, and then you shoot it out, and it does this blinding aid, which makes crowd control easier, which is what this gun is trying to do. You're trying to jolt things, like he said, with the new jolting on it, but you're trying to chain kill things, and nothing's better keeping things grouped up than blinding them. That's just my thought.
Its catalyst, I would give it the perk Electric Cherry, where reloading creates a jolting discharge around you that deals more damage.
I think it's cool, but like, we don't have to take everything for Call of Duty. Come on now.
The emptier the magazine. Again inspired by Black Ops 6 Zombies. I would love to see this weapon return one day, perhaps in Frontiers, Bungie, pretty please. Anyway, we still have a fair number of weapons to go, so let's continue by talking about Fabian's strategy.
Oh my god!
That was actually...
I tried so hard. I liked this model of auto rifle. I tried so hard to make it good. Like, I use this so much in like PvP and stuff. Like, I tried to make it good. It is just the most generically bad auto rifle.
Entirely Titan exclusive. This exotic wasn't all that special since its main perk Frontlines made it so whenever enemies were close, you received increased
It was
handling
bad.
stability as well as kills.
There's a reason why no one cared to use it.
automatically reloading a portion of the magazine. So its exotic perk was basically subsistence. So my idea for its rework would be to add a frontal energy shield. With its new perk now reading, when aiming down sights, this weapon generates a protective energy shield that absorbs all incoming damage directed at the user. The energy shield taunts nearby enemies.
I think that's
I
cool.
would have it so the shield doesn't have a ton of HP to make it balanced, and then for its secondary trait, I would give it subsistence just like before. For the catalyst, much like how the Titan Juggernaut shield is stronger while amplified, I think the same should be true for the shield as well. So, whenever you're
But why does it need, it's a primary, so why are we giving a primary weapon and an amplified? Like, I don't know if there's any other primary weapons that synergize with elements, per se. I'm trying to think. I don't think there's anything that specifically synergizes, so why are we trying to synergize something that isn't arc?
amplified, the energy shield is 50% more durable. Oh, and I would also make it not Titan exclusive, so everyone can enjoy it. Next we have the first curse, the polar opposite to the last word, because it's a kinetic hand cannon that fires slowly and favors.
I think the first curse would actually be good in this meta right now, because last word, they nerfed it so bad, like it's very mid. It's not good. Like I don't understand why we had to kill last word, because I enjoyed using it. Apparently, it's pretty good in PvE with like Lucky Pants, but the first curse with like the 120 meta, it would actually do probably pretty good here.
Aiming down sights. It has the perk, the first curse, that reads, first precision kill of the magazine refills it, granting bonuses to range and stability until the player reloads. And you know, you read traits like this and compare them to the craziness we have in Destiny 2, and it really shows how far we've come in terms of sheer power over the years when this was considered an exotic trait. So for Destiny 2, in my mind, I feel this weapon should become a super stacked 120 hand cannon with a new intrinsic that reads, while aiming down sights, this weapon gains massively increased aim assist and stability. Scoring a kill without reloading grants your next shot heavily increased damage. And in my head, I would have this buff shot deal around double damage, so in Crucible, you'd be able to 2-tap to the head. But the catch is that I'd make the magazine size only 5 bullets, meaning you'd have to spend your first 3.
I got a different one for you. Give it triple tap or 4 times. Yeah, so if you're hitting precision hits on targets in PvE, like in PvP, taking advantage of triple tap and 4 times is a lot harder. But in PvE, if you're landing headies or crit shots, like if you don't get the kill, because this feels like this would be that's the problem with a lot of guns like this, or that requires kills. It feels really bad because you land crits and you don't kill something. You're like, okay, well, I just killed this entire synergy. Whereas if it has 4th time or triple tap and you're landing hits, you may not get kills. You're going to get a refund, so you have an opportunity to still use the perk. So I personally, I think triple tap or 4 time on this for PvE purposes would actually make it a pretty interesting handgun. You're just running around, you're gaining precision, and you're getting double damage. Like, oh yeah, I mean, maybe.
Being perfectly accurate, getting either a 3 crit or 2 crit 1 body, but then for the remaining 2 bullets, you would need to hit both headshots in order to secure.
It is a sexy looking gun, though.
Trait, I would give it rapid hit, and then for its catalyst, Zen Moment. This sounds balanced to me, but any PvP players, do let me know what you think.
Zen Moment and rapid hit. Oh my god. Talk about the ultimate 120.
Comments. Tlaloc is next, and this was the Warlock exclusive kinetic scout rifle.
Praise be Tlaloc! I was a Tlaloc main. That was my life.
That had the main trait Overflow that read, this weapon has better handling, rate of fire, and stability.
I think it's fine the way it is. I don't think it's going to be overly broken.
It made it a stat monster and overall a very consistent weapon for PvP. And even more so when using Sunsinger because you would hold on to your...
It was good in PvP on the rest of the half of the game. Like, in how it is now, you would switch to it mid-game when you actually got your super, because most of it, I mean, unless you're really trying to build up your super, but I feel like in a lot of cases, like in D2, it's faster to get kills with guns that are good than guns that give you like super energy based on their perk, because we have guns like that already. And we also have Thresh, which is the most useless perk in the game.
Super anyway for self-res.
At least it feels to me, because it feels like it doesn't do anything.
Much changing. A 1-to-1 remake would do just fine here, in my opinion, with the addition of Thresh as the weapon's catalyst to make you generate your super slightly faster, letting you get to the main perk slightly faster. Oh, and I would also change the perk name from Overflow to something like Paracausal Enhancements, and I would also make it not Warlock exclusive. Next on the list is Boolean Gemini.
Boolean Gemini. Talk about a weapon that everyone remembers, but also forgets that this thing does nothing. I'm going to tell you, I can't even tell you what it does. I just remember it doesn't do anything good.
Gemini, another mostly forgotten kinetic scout rifle where you had a choice between the trait One Way, which granted bonus agility on precision kills, or another, which granted bonus armor on non-precision kills.
Yeah, it was so useless.
Rather boring, but I can respect what they were trying by letting you choose what you wanted the gun to do. So in keeping with this, here's what I'd like to see changed. For Destiny 2, you can now...
You know, I'm gonna throw you a curveball. You're gonna listen to what he says. I'm gonna tell you right now what I think it should do. I think it should be a weapon. Gemini is always like the twins, right? Turn into a darkness gun, both strand and stasis, and you hold R to switch between the different sides. One way, which is stasis, the other way is strand, and each one has like some kind of perk that takes advantage of the synergy, like getting a kill suspends a target for like 3 seconds, or getting a kill chills targets nearby, like something crazy like that. And it's a scout rifle, so you don't think like it's not going to be overly broken, but being able to switch between the two elements, or severs a target after a kill or something like that. Either way, I feel like that would make Gemini a really interesting exotic. Now let's see what he wants to do it.
Now switch between One Way and or another by holding R. And One Way now reads precision kills grant bonus mobility, handling, reload speed, and sprint speed.
I think mine was better.
Multi-kills grant you damage resistance. And then my idea for both of these buffs is to have them last around 15 seconds each, encouraging the player to keep swapping modes to continue receiving the benefits from both. For the catalyst, I would also add kinetic tremors to make it feel like an all-round consistent scout rifle that's very reliable. Next is Zen Meteor, and I remember...
I don't know. I still think the Gemini idea of switching between the darkness would have been really cool, because we have light. Like, you think we have all these different light options. Bunai and Gemini could be at least the darkness weapon. We'd be going between stasis and strand. I don't know.
I remember a lot of people saying that Still Hunt was essentially the spiritual successor to this weapon.
It is.
Zen Meteor was a solar sniper rifle.
This also used to be a PlayStation exclusive, which is why most people don't remember it too much.
Its main perk, Dynamite, made it so rapid kills loaded an extra high damage round, and then its secondary trait, with a laser beam, made said Dynamite round cause a massive explosion. The thing that set
really
this
cool.
exotic back was the fact that you needed kills, not hits, to trigger the special bullet and explosion. So I feel like all this gun would really need is to have the perk change to trigger on precision hits to make it way more viable. So my version would have the main perk, Dynamite, with a laser beam, that reads, landing precision hits generates an extra bullet that deals massively increased damage and causes an ignition. And since the magazine size is only 3, it would have to be 3 precision hits. Then for its secondary trait, I would give it the perk Thermonuclear, which reads, causing an ignition refills the magazine, to make it compete with the likes of Whisper and Still Hunt. As far as the catalyst is concerned, I don't think there's too much needed here, so field prep is probably a good way to go. Next is a bit of a meme gun, and
meme gun. He's not wrong. It is a meme gun, but this gun came out of nowhere. It came out of nowhere and became the terror of year 3. Because Bungie, again, history repeats itself. Bungie doesn't know what to do with special ammo in PvP. This gun single-handedly became the best gun to use, because it always had ammo, and it was literally the Titanfall gun before Titanfall came out. Like, Titanfall with its auto-tracking pistol. And then we had this. Then Titanfall came out. And now we have the Strand version that does the same thing as the Titanfall gun. I don't even know what the Titanfall gun does. But we had the perfect tracking sidearm right here. This is it. This is the OG. And it was disgusting in PvP.
That's Dreg's Promise, an arc sidearm modeled after the guns fallen Dregs use, and it really didn't have much going for it back in the day. Its main perk simply stated that it had high ricochet shock rounds with enhanced target acquisition. So for D2, we're gonna have to change things up a bit. My idea for Dreg's Promise would be to first of all make it a rocket sidearm.
No. Listen, I think you're overthinking it. Not everything has to be a PvE gun. Not everything has to be a PvP gun. No. I think that is a horrible idea.
Then after that, I'd make it so reloading after a kill grants you a lightning grenade that can be stuck to surfaces. The reason for this is that dregs in-game often seem to throw lots and lots of lightning grenades at you, so why not add that functionality here? It would of course be on a relatively short cooldown of about 5 or 6 seconds, or function how the Rock does for Forerunner's Catalyst, where it consumes a certain amount
Yeah, let's not compare Forerunner because no one uses that either.
of ammo. And to be honest, I think this is a great idea. For the secondary trait,
It's
I would also
horrible.
make it so
I'm sorry. I don't agree. It is fine as a arc
while
weapon.
Dreg's Promise is equipped, your arc grenade
Arc primary.
apply Jolt. I think this is good because if you're running Arc or Prismatic, you won't need to run Spark of Shock or Facet of Dominance to get Jolt on your Arc nades. And of course, it adds the Jolt to the Lightning Grenade from the main perk as well. Catalyst-wise, I'm very tempted to give it Volt Shot, but instead, I think a perk like Lightning Grenade Final Blows partially refill the magazine would be more appropriate. But again, do let me know what you think.
I don't think you understand how good tracking is in Destiny. Even right now, with how special weapons are and people are aggressively using shotguns, this would be the counter shotgun. All you have to do is aim, backtrack, and shoot. And you don't even have to really aim. That's how good this gun was back in the day. You literally didn't really have to aim. You just shoot in the direction and you got to kill.
Next, we have Nova.
And again, in PvE, whatever, not everything has to be centered around PvE.
Mortis, and Abaddon, otherwise known as Void Lord and Fire Lord. And yeah, if you didn't already know, in Destiny 1, Thunderlord came in 3 separate flavors. The OG
In year 3. It wasn't like that until year 3.
Arc. Then in the Taken King, the Void and Solar variants were also added, and they all function exactly the same. There is no difference except the element. And while I doubt Bungie will ever add them to Destiny 2, if they do, in keeping with their previous game, they should just make them behave identically to how Thunderlord does.
Here, this is what you do. You give Underlord a catalyst that lets you swap between elements. And instead of lightning coming down, you cause solar ignitions. And instead of lightning, you could swap and it does void explosions like Graviton. Like the little balls explode. You just do that, except it's just on impact. It's just they blow up and they weaken or whatever. I think that is a simple solution. There's no reason to have 2 other versions of Thunderlord. Just make it a built-in package.
Now, and maybe sprinkle in a bit of elemental verb synergy or something like that. Next, we have a rather interesting
Oh my
weapon,
god.
that is the machine gun.
Talk about a cool looking gun, but was ass.
As
It's like it's the little sub LMG. Like it looks like an attack sub. But it was ass.
Nemesis Star. And I don't know why, but 15-year-old me was always so fascinated by this weapon because, for one, it looks awesome, and second, it has a rather unique firing mechanism. Nemesis Star's main perk, Extinction Cycle, reads, on trigger pull, this weapon's initial burst has a higher rate of fire. Which
Sounded
is rather
really cool,
odd.
too.
Then its secondary trait, Strange Gravity, also says, when holding down the trigger, range and accuracy increase as rate of fire decreases. Kills grant bonus grenade energy. So it was basically a weird hybrid of Demolitionist and Adagio that didn't require kills. And from what I remember, it was never really a meta weapon, but
No.
it was pretty cool nonetheless. So in terms of what we can do for
It was I think a lot of people got this as their first exotic, and they used it for their playthrough of Rise of Iron, and that was it.
Destiny 2,
I did. I used this as my first playthrough until I got other weapons unlocked.
my idea is to change the perk to lean heavily into the slowing rate of fire. So my version would read, kills with this weapon decrease the rate of fire but increase its damage. And I would set a minimum rate of fire, though I think it should start at 900 RPM and go all the way down to 180 RPM where the damage is at its maximum. As for the secondary trait, keeping Strange Gravity 1-for-1 makes total sense for me. And then I would separate the kills grant bonus grenade energy part into its catalyst as Demolitionist. The whole point of this weapon is firing slowly, so I think it's best it stays that way, but of course with the modern twist we discussed. Next, we have the iconic exotic sword
I don't have an opinion on Nemesis Star. It was just that bad, so anything would be an improvement for it.
trio of Boltcaster, Raise Lighter, and the one and only Dark Drinker.
I always thought about this. This is how you deal with it. This is how you deal with these swords. They already exist in game. You get one exotic sword that you can hold R and switch all 3 elements. Not just elements, but it changes their archetype, like how they interact. And before you say, well, we technically can't do that. Like, yeah, you can. There's plenty of guns in the game that changes the archetype based on the perk. A good example would be Suro's Regime. You could swap between the two different perk options, and it either shoots it shoots fast and then goes as you can either shoot really fast or like faster, or you could shoot really slow and it does damage based on the archetype that it's doing. Doing the one weapon, like you clearly, all you have to do is you take this right here. All you need is like the crystal, and then the blade itself will change based on the elements. So you're gonna have all these different looking blades based on that weapon, and they do different things. I think it would be a really cool exotic sword. I would use it.
Next, we have the iconic exotic sword trio.
Yeah, I mean,
Boltcaster,
it's such an easy thing to do.
the one and only
Yeah.
Dark Drinker. However, since every single one of these swords' special moves has become a sword frame in Destiny 2, I don't think it would really make much sense to bring these
Bring them back as one wombo combo exotic sword. Be dope.
back. As iconic as they are, I think Bungie did an excellent job making Vortex and Caster frames in Season of Arrivals. And back then, Falling Guillotine, dare I say, was just as powerful as Dark Drinker was. So for these three, I'm going to give them a pass, but if you still think they deserve their own exotic reprisal, drop a comment explaining how you would do it. Moving on to the penultimate
The penultimate, the sword that you got for free for beating the campaign and no one used because Raise Lighter and Dark Drinker existed. The two exotic swords that everyone used, even for like Wrath of the Machine boss. No one cared about Young Wolf. The only people that used Young Wolf were the ones that didn't have the previous swords. If you didn't have an exotic sword, this was your Make-A-Wish, here's your sword.
have the Young Wolf's Howl, the fourth exotic sword which released in Rise of Iron that again sadly never saw much use. Its special move created a line of fire that set enemies on fire and also debuffed them by 15%. So you could see it as a sort of support weapon, though
Yeah, no one cared.
this debuff was overridden by every other debuff, so no one ever really used it. So in order to bring it up to par in Destiny 2, I have the perfect sword.
I'm going to be honest. I played this game for like, 10 years longer. I played Destiny. I didn't even realize it did a 15% debuff. And I don't think it would even make me use it, even if I did know, because the exotic swords back in the day were that good compared to this thing.
Solution. In a similar way to how a Wolfpack Ergosum buffs your team's sword damage, I think Young Wolf's Howl should do the same. Keep the special move as is and bring along the debuff, but have it stack this time and only affect the damage of swords. So in full,
God, I miss the Plague Lands.
targets affected by Howling Flames receive more damage from swords, and I think a good 10% weakness would work super nicely here. Finally, for its catalyst, I would give it the perk Saladin's Fury that reads Howling Flames is more potent and lingers for longer. While we're at it, since it's Iron Lord themed, why not have this as a reward for earning the Iron Lord title? Just a thought, would give a nice incentive to chase the title, that's for sure. But anyway, now let's talk about the
Alright, my thought process on the sword. I think when you do your slam, it needs to do a massive, like, think of a wall of flames. Think of your grenade launchers, just the length of the blast, just a massive line of fire, and that if something dies within it, it causes chain reaction explosions or ignition explosions or something. Like, it's very obvious this is not a DPS weapon. This is meant for ad clear and support. So there's nothing more support than just killing everything with one slam. I'm just saying, it would have been badass if it just slam, wah. Like, obviously, Titans just do that with their concentration slam, but why not give it an opportunity for other people to use it as an exotic? I don't know.
and lingers for longer. While we're at it, since it's Iron Lord themed, why not have this as a reward for earning the Iron Lord title? Just a thought, would give a nice
Hereafter.
Anyway, now let's talk about the final weapon that
I don't know I don't remember what this does. Talk about a sniper that is probably the most forgotten weapon.
it's not in Destiny 2, and that is the Sniper Rifle Hereafter. This weapon had the main perk, the Hereafter, which reads, crouching increases scope zoom and makes it easier to aim under fire, as well as the secondary trait, Blinding Light, which also reads, precision kills with this weapon cause a bright flash that can blind nearby enemies. So if this was brought into Destiny 2, for starters, I would remove the need to crouch in order to switch zoom levels, and instead assign it to holding.
No. I don't think he plays PvP. Like, I'm not a PvP stan, but if you have to hold R and then you go through the animation, it is simply faster in the heat of a fight to just crouch. I don't know why you would ever hold R to switch. That's stupid.
R for some more flexibility. Second, I would also make it so Blinding Light activates on hits and not kills. As
Okay,
for the Catalyst, because I remember Hereafter being more of a PvP thing, I think either Snapshot or Opening Shot would do the trick here. So
Sure.
there we have it. That's how I would redesign every single missing exotic.
Yeah, I mean, the link will be down below for you guys from Llama. I agreed with most. There's a lot that I disagreed. There's a lot of Disneyland thoughts, but there was also some thoughts I feel like were a little excessive. Like, you're just making a new gun at this point. And some of these guns are just so bad that you might as well just make a new gun, in my opinion. You let me know in the comments down below what you think. I'm Mr. Gaming Counselor. Until next time,